talk of the black race and all that comes to mind is Africa. Many Asians even disagree there are blacks in America, the UK, Canada, Australia, and other countries.
Where do you think I'm from?
You look like African.
No, I'm American.
不可能啊，美国没有黑人啊。
But are blacks in Africa only? No. In this video, AfriWorld brings you some awesome black tribes in Asia, Pacific, and Australia. Let's go. The Negritos. The Negritos of the Philippines are comprised of approximately 25 widely scattered ethno-linguistic groups, totaling an estimated 15,000 people. They are located on several major islands in the country: Luzon, Palawan, Pinay, Negros, Cebu, and Mindanao. They are assumed to be the aboriginal inhabitants of the archipelago. The religion of most groups remains animistic, often with a thin overlay of Roman Catholic influence. Many of these Negrito groups still live by hunting and gathering, trading wild meat and forest products to the Filipino farmers around them in exchange for rice or corn. They also practice some marginal cultivation. The Aborigines. Aboriginal people understand their ancestors to have always been on the Australian continent, and archaeologists have dated their remains to over 40,000 years old. Contact between Europeans and Aborigines was sporadic from the Dutch, Portuguese, and British expeditions across the Indian Ocean in the 17th century to the British and French explorations of the Pacific Ocean in the 18th century. Our current research finding holds that those early migrants themselves came out of Africa about 700,000 years ago, which would make Aboriginal Australians the oldest population of humans living outside Africa. Aborigines have dark brown skin and pronounced facial features. Most of them have straight dark hair, and even some, especially the Torres Strait Islanders, have blonde and brown hair. The Pacific Islanders. Pacific Islanders refer to those whose origin are the original people of Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia. Pacific Islanders come from the islands of Hawaii, the U.S. insular territories of American Samoa, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands, as well as the freely associated states of Micronesia and the tiny nations of Marshall Islands and Palau. Other places of origin outside of U.S. affiliation include Fiji, Tahiti, the Solomon Islands, and Tonga. The term Melanesia emanated from the word melanin, which means dark complexion. The Andamanese. The Andamanese are believed to share a cultural affinity with some of the Orang Aslis of insular Northeast Asia. It has been argued that the Andamanese arrived from the Malay and Burmese coasts by land in late Quaternary times, at a later time by sea. There is also speculation that the Andamanese came from Sumatra via the Nicobar Islands. However, the precise origin of the Andamanese remain scholarly speculations that have not been thoroughly investigated and researched. The Andamanese are the indigenous tribes of Negrito hunters and gatherers of the Andaman Islands. In 1908, the term Andamanese referred to 13 distinct tribal groups, each distinguished by a different dialect and geographical location. Today, only 4 tribes remain and are referred to collectively as Andamanese. The Siddis. The Siddis, also known as Habshi, are descendants of Africa, originally coming from the hinterlands of the East African coast. The term Siddis is supposed to be derived from Sayyid, Habshi, from the Arabic term Abyssinia, Habash. In the past, black slaves stemming from coastal strait from Ethiopia to Mozambique were carried by Arab slave traders to different parts of the Muslim world, including India. Here, their presence is recorded since the early establishment of Muslim rule during the Sultanate of Delhi. African slaves continued to be imported to the western states of India until the late 19th century, though never in large numbers. They were mainly employed by local rulers as soldiers, bodyguards, and domestic servants. Today, small groups of Siddis live in the West Indian coastal states of Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, as well as Sindh in Pakistan. The Papuans, the indigenous people of New Guinea in Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, commonly called Papuans, are Melanesians. West Papua is the western half of the island of New Guinea, and it is distinct from the independent country of Papua New Guinea. It is home to around 312 different tribes, including some uncontacted people with over 820 languages, which is the highest number of local dialects of any country on earth. The central mountainous region of Papua is home to the highland people who practice pig husbandry and sweet potato cultivation. The lowland people live in swampy and malarial coastal regions and live by hunting the abundant game and gathering. The Tamil. The Tamil people are an ethnic group of South Asia with a recorded history going back more than 2 millennia. The oldest Tamil communities are those of southern India and northeastern Sri Lanka. Tamils constitute 5.9% of the population in India, 15% in Sri Lanka, 7% in Malaysia, 6% in Mauritius, and 5% in Singapore. Although they find it difficult to accept their blacks, their dark complexion and facial features are enough for one not to argue. They are considered to be the most original and indigenous tribe in India. Want more about Africa and the black race? Remember to subscribe, click on the notification bell, and your comments are welcome.